Welcome to Brampton Focus. My name is Michael A. Charbon. The City of Brampton has hired a new CAO, Chief Administrative Officer. His name is David Barrick, and he's the 7th such candidate to occupy the seat in the last decade for Brampton. He comes to Brampton from the region of Niagara, very much like his predecessor, Harry Schlang, who also came from the region of Niagara. And with both of these, there is a sprinkle of potential political conflict, and the seat of CAO in Brampton is always what one would call a hot seat. David Barrick went through an extensive process to obtain this job and was unanimously endorsed by City Council. And Mayor Patrick Brown goes on to say that I am confident that Mr. Barrick will effectively lead our city and staff and ensure that we continue to responsibly deliver a safe and vibrant city of opportunities for all Brampton residents. Brampton Focus sits down with the new CAO of Brampton, David Barrick. David, welcome, and thank you for sitting with us.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for taking the time to meet with me.
Thank you. Let's deal with the elephant in the room first. There's been some publications in the Niagara region, and it's been regurgitated by some of the Brampton publications about some controversy. Give us your opinion. You've never had an opportunity to stand up and say what's going on. What was that all about, and where does this stand currently?
Well, first, let me say, express my thanks and appreciation to the City Council for the unanimous support in this role. I'm really excited and looking forward to working with this council on achieving their deliverables and their priorities. As for Niagara, I can't speak to some of the things that are being written about or discussed there. My focus is 100% the City of Brampton, its residents, and supporting this council moving forward. Your
predecessor, Harry Schlang, who was leaving, was touted as being somewhat of an axeman cometh. There were some people who were moved, some people were repositioned. What is your focus coming to Brampton now? Are you going to be that same kind of a person? Are you going to adopt some of the current issues and sections in city government?
So thanks for that. It's clear and it's human nature when a new person comes into a role like this that there's some uncertainty. My anticipation is to work with people, work with the staff. There's an existing team of phenomenal staff here now, and they've been doing the work and they'll continue to do the work, and I'm just part of that team. First and foremost, to deliver the priorities of council. Those are already public, so it's assisting and moving along the deliverables of this council and making sure that the resources there from a staff perspective so that we're able to deliver on council's objectives and priorities.
The first 100 days in many instances when a new manager comes in is a time of change, a time of feeling out what your position is and what the geography, as one would say, is. What are some of the objectives you want to accomplish in your first 100 days here in Brampton?
Thanks, Michael. So first and foremost on deck is the budget process, and that's critical. As I noted, in terms of aligning resources behind the deliverables for the council, the strategic priorities of the council priorities, the 2040 vision. It's important that the budget process support the alignment of resources behind that. So that's critical. I understand council as well has made a priority of certain items like attracting university. So getting the government relations plan in place. I know there's one there, but assisting it, making the resources there to ensure that, once again, council's been clear on what its expectations are, so ensuring the resources are there and putting the efforts into delivering for this council and the community.
So you've touched on a couple of aspects there which we'll drill down. Let's talk about the budget first of all. In several elections past, there's been talked about money that wasn't spent, that Brampton had in the bank and didn't spend it, and there was talk about a budget and then a non-budget. Where does Brampton sit? Are you able to comment on that yet? Do you know where that budget number is and where Brampton sits?
Well, I've had an opportunity to review the 2019 budget. I understand the 2020 budget is under development. And so the good news is Brampton has some resources. And so the question is not, is there enough resources? It's, are the resources being utilized in a manner that focuses on the council objectives? And so that's part of my job now coming in to ensure the 2020 draft it matches the resources and deliverables that council would like.
There's talk now with the election just taking place, a federal election, province as well, downloading the relationship as a chief administrative officer with both provincial and federal governments is important. Budget, infrastructure, etc. Where do you sit in that relationship with both the federal and the provincial government from a city standpoint, from a Brampton standpoint?
Thank you. So politicians talk to politicians and staff talk to staff. So staff's role is to support council in creating having the information, creating the advocacy so that they can advocate with their counterparts. From a staff perspective, we'll certainly be advocating at the staff level as well. And so I understand Brampton Council is quite focused on their government relations objectives. So the priorities are set, and once again, it's ensuring the resources are behind the council to support them and achieve the deliverables there.
In many of the councillors' minds during the municipal election, the inability for Brampton to connect to Steeles and create that north-south flow from the lake to Brampton, transit has been a key element, and that element also applies into the application for a university. What type of priority does that take in your upcoming regime, as one would say?
Thanks, Michael. So transit is critical for Brampton. That is certainly recognized, and that's not going to change. The pace of growth in Brampton will ensure that transit continues to be a priority, and so that means continuous assessment, continuous review. How are the service levels? So that's going to be an ongoing conversation, I believe, in terms of assessing and making sure that residents are best served in that aspect.
Another ongoing conversation is university. Brampton deserves a university, and part of that is the transit accessibility. The location of the university, the resources to be able to do that is also an important part. How does that play into your thought pattern?
Well, thank you. So it's important that this corporation build a business case for advocating for that university, and part of that business case advocacy is doing that homework that you've just talked about, making sure that the plan is in place, getting support, getting the ambassadors, and I believe there's tremendous support in Brampton already, so that won't be a difficult job. The technical parts of putting the pieces together, I think, is something that we've continued to work on.
One final question for you. This city council that's sitting currently seems to be very unified. They seem to be working very well with the Mayor Patrick Brown. They seem to be very focused. If you look and compare that to a council previous, there was lots of, one would say, a little difficulty. When you look at the prospect of working with this council, what are some of the positive aspects that you can point to?
Boy, am I excited to be working with Brampton Council, number one, and secondly, to your point, the fact that it's a united council on so many issues, it's very helpful, very productive, because they're clear on delivering for their residents, and the expectations then to staff are very clear. So that makes my job a lot easier in terms of aligning the corporation resources behind it to get that done. There's no second guessing. There's no, council split, it's this or that.
Yes.
They're very clear. And when staff and council are aligned, things can happen quickly. And I know it's a dynamic council, and there's dynamic leadership here already.
Which is good.
Putting those two together to deliver.
David Barrick, the new CEO for Brampton, thanks for spending your time with us. You've been watching Brampton Focus. My name is Michael A. Charbon.